You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, and you're not. Week 1 of the NFL season started with a bang. Cowboys-Buccaneers was a fantastic game. The big comeback late by Brady. I mean, some people said, and you can include me in this group, that would be the game of the year. The first game of the season was the game of the year. Well, it has some competition. Yes, week 1 started with a bang. There's no question about that. But it also ended with a bang. That game yesterday between the Ravens and Raiders was nothing short of incredible. Just a back and forth affair, epic moments, head-scratching plays. The next Monday Night Football game is Lions-Packers. It's got a lot to live up to. Bears-Rams couldn't live up to Cowboys-Buccaneers. Let's see if Lions-Packers can live up to Ravens-Raiders. The first NFL game in Vegas in front of fans. You knew that place would be rocking, and it was. It seems like Allegiant Stadium is going to be a great place to watch a football game for a really long time. Jimmy Traina tweeted this. Watching that game and then going out for a night on the Vegas Strip is about the best possible way you could spend a night. You know something? He's 100% right. The atmosphere of Vegas, the glitz and the glamour, I feel like it lends itself really well to sports. We live in an era where we need to keep sports fans more entertained than ever. Whether they're at the game or watching the game at home. That's why you see all the vignettes on the Jumbotron during downtime. It's why you hear the music. It's why you have the cheerleaders. It's why Twitter's such a big thing. Make no mistake about it, a lot of people are watching sporting events on 2 screens. They're watching it on their TV and their iPad. They're watching the game in front of them, but they're also tweeting about it, seeing what other people are saying about it. The game isn't enough to keep them entertained. Is that an issue? You can make the argument that it is, but the point is that entertainment factor lends itself perfectly to Vegas. They'll be able to do things that no other team will be able to do. Now, are there issues with playing in Vegas? Certainly you need to have a high character because it's very easy to get distracted. by the gambling and the free-flowing alcohol and the brothels that are just a short drive away. But so far, from what we've seen from the Raiders and the Golden Knights, Las Vegas is going to be the next great sports town in America. Just in terms of how the fans appreciate their team. Are some of them tourists? Yes, but most of them aren't. So for Las Vegas to be fully integrated into the NFL family with this game, a game that when this NFL season is over, we'll look back on as one of the best games of the year, is the stuff that dreams are made of. To quote the great Sam Spade from the Maltese Falcon. Now, early on, this game looked like a rout. The Raiders really couldn't get much going offensively. Their second, third, and fourth drives of the game, they only had one first down and they only ran 10 plays. To put that into perspective, their first drive of the game, which wasn't an impressive drive by any stretch, but still, they got past midfield. That's something. That drive went 10 plays. The Raiders' offense looked inept early on. It was just, get the ball to Darren Waller. What about Hunter Renfrow? Nope, Waller. But he's double covered. Nope, we have to get the ball to him. What about Bryan Edwards? Nope, Waller. Henry Ruggs? No, Darren Waller. Always get the ball to Darren Waller. I understand the mismatch that Darren Waller can provide. Darren Waller is one of the 2 or 3 best tight ends in this league. But if the defense is keying in on him, you've got to get other players involved. You can't force it. The Ravens got out to a 14-0 lead early in the second quarter, and you had the sense that this game was going to be a runaway. Maybe it would stay close. You wouldn't be able to turn it off, but you felt like the Ravens had the game well in hand. Excluding yesterday's game, the Ravens had won 98 straight games when holding a lead of at least 14 points in a game. That means that in the entire John Harbaugh era, and he's been with the Ravens since 2008, the Ravens have never blown a 2-touchdown lead. That's incredible. After the Ravens went up 14-0, the Raiders went on a really important drive. They were able to punch it into the end zone. Then Daniel Carrelson hit a field goal on the next Raiders drive to make it 14-10 Ravens at the half. So, okay, we've got a game here. This isn't going to be a runaway. Then something kind of interesting happened. Tyson Williams, a guy who played well yesterday. He had 9 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown. He also had 3 catches for 29 yards. got benched for Latavius Murray. Was that ever explained? Why Williams got the hook? What was it? You just didn't want to keep running him out there? He was out there a lot in the first half, so you wanted him to take the second half off? I mean, nothing against Latavius Murray, but Williams vastly outproduced him. Murray did have a touchdown run. No question about that, but to see Williams get benched like that was weird. If you want to have the two guys involved, that's fine, but alternate it. Go with Williams for a little bit, then Murray. Williams for a little bit, then Murray. The Ravens didn't score a touchdown in the third quarter. They did get a field goal after a really good punt return by Devin Duvernay. I'll say this, the special teams yesterday for both teams was fantastic. Justin Tucker didn't miss a kick. Sam Cook was solid. Daniel Carrelson didn't miss a kick. And A.J. Cole was absolutely fantastic. He was flipping field position like it was easy. So it's 17-10 Ravens at this point. The Raiders start driving down the field and driving down the field. They end up with 4th and 1 at the Ravens' 13. They decide to go for it. That's the right decision. You're down by 7. You're in the opponent's red zone. Go for it. But Josh Jacobs got stuffed. You got the sense that that's a big moment. If the Ravens can capitalize on that, you got to feel really good about their chances of winning this game. But then after a Lamar Jackson run, the drive fizzled out. The Raiders went 3 and out again. Then Lamar Jackson committed his first fumble. Jackson was good yesterday, but he wasn't great. He did fumble the ball 3 times. He lost 2 of those fumbles. He completed 19 of his 30 passes for 235 yards and a touchdown. He also had 12 carries for 86 yards. Again, good, not great. In all fairness, the Ravens needed Jackson to be better, and he wasn't. I like Lamar Jackson. I think he's a very exciting player. I really like watching him play, but he didn't do what he needed to do yesterday. Here's where the craziness started. The Raiders get great field position. They start the drive on the Ravens' 41. They march down the field for a touchdown. So we're tied at 17. The Ravens then go on a really quick 3-minute drive that was only 6 plays. If you blinked, they were up by 7 again. Jackson made a really good throw to Sammy Watkins. That was the big play in that drive. I was impressed with Watkins yesterday. I'm not the biggest Watkins fan in the world. I don't think he's terrible, but I don't think he's great. But he was really good yesterday. He had 4 catches for 96 yards, including the big 49-yarder. That put the Ravens in a goal-to-go situation. The next play was a Latavius Murray touchdown run. So with 6 minutes left, the Ravens are up by 7. You've got to feel good about their chances, right? This is a Ravens defense that, for the most part, has played really well. They were getting pressure on Derek Carr. I thought Calais Campbell, Justin Houston, Justin Matabuki, and Patrick Queen played really well. Give Queen credit, because he did not have a good rookie season. He played really well in his first game of his second season. Now here's where things got interesting, and this was a great job by John Gruden. The Raiders' offense to that point had been really one-dimensional. It was either Darren Waller or dump it off to one of the backs, whether it was Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake, or Alec Ingold. On the drive after the Ravens made it 24-17, the Raiders got other guys involved. Hunter Renfrow had a catch. Henry Ruggs had a really big catch. It was on 3rd and 10. It went for 37 yards. That's what Ruggs can do. That's the big playability that the Raiders saw in him out of Alabama. The Raiders have always loved speedy wide receivers. You'd be hard-pressed to find a faster wide receiver than Henry Ruggs. So if you put him in a position where he can just outrun a defender, all Derek Carr has to do is put the ball in a good spot and it's smooth sailing. That made it 1st and goal at the 10. Then Alex Leatherwood committed a big holding penalty. I was not impressed with Leatherwood. I understand that he had a tough assignment in his first NFL game, but still, you've got to play better than that. I did not think Leatherwood played well. It was 1st and goal at the 20. Again, you've got to feel good about your chances if you're a Ravens fan, right? You know they have to go for the end zone. And you know that they're going to look to Darren Waller first. Stop them from doing those two things, and you're in a great spot to just run the ball out. 2 plays after the Leatherwood hold, the Raiders tied the game at 24. So here we go. 3.5 minutes left. That's plenty of time for Lamar Jackson. He ripped off a big 28-yard run right up the gut. With under 2 minutes left in the game, it's 1st and 10 Ravens at the Raiders' 37-yard line. Justin Tucker's career long is from 61. You've got to feel pretty good about your chances at that point. It's a 55-yarder. You know he'll probably hit it, but you want to make it a little easier for him. So after 3 runs, it's 4th and 2 at the Raiders' 29. Justin Tucker lines up for a 47-yard field goal. It's automatic. Then the Ravens' defense just folded like a cheap suit. Derek Carr starts this drive from his own 25. The Raiders have no timeouts. You know he's going to throw it. How do you allow 2 catches to Bryan Edwards for 38 yards? If you blinked, the Raiders had the ball in field goal range. Last year, Daniel Carlson hit a 54-yard field goal. You know he can hit a 55-yarder. Harrelson sent the game into overtime. I don't understand how the Ravens defense allowed those 2 catches to Bryan Edwards. A guy who last year only had 11 catches for 193 yards. So to allow 2 catches for 38 yards to this guy, it would be one thing if it's Waller. Even Renfrow is really talented, and Ruggs, has blazing speed. But Bryan Edwards, whose biggest strength is just the fact that he's tall, he's 6'3". No, that's inexcusable to me. So just to recap, the Ravens were up 17-10 to start the fourth quarter. The Raiders tied the game at 17. The Ravens took the lead 24-17. The Raiders tied it at 24. The Ravens took the lead 27-24. The Raiders tied it up at 27. The Raiders tied the game 3 times in the final 9.5 minutes or so of this game. Think about it this way. After struggling to get anything going offensively, the Raiders' last 3 drives in regulation all resulted in points. So now we're in overtime. The Raiders won the toss. 2nd and 12 at the Raiders' 34 is where I want to pick up this game. Carr completes a pass to Hunter Renfrow, and Renfrow runs down the left sideline for a gain of 27. The thing is, though, live time, I really thought he stepped out. And there were screen grabs on Twitter showing that he probably stepped out. I mean, I understand that it was on the opposite side of the field from the Ravens, but no one signaled to John Harbaugh that this is worth a second look. No one said to him, call a timeout so we have more time to look at this. I mean, the Raiders knew he stepped out. The next play was a run. You don't call a run in that spot unless you want to just get a play off quickly. I couldn't believe that wasn't looked at again. But regardless, the Raiders caught a break. 3rd and 4 at the Ravens' 33. Bryan Edwards again came up incredibly big with pressure in Carr's face. He lets off a perfect throw off his back foot to Edwards over Chris Westry, who actually did a good job replacing Marcus Peters on the whole yesterday. He just got burned on this play. Edwards seemingly has a touchdown. After review, it turns out that Brandon Stevens stopped Edwards at the 1-yard line. Look, live time, I thought that was a touchdown. Not gonna lie to you. I think everyone did. Good job by the replay room in getting that right. Making up for the missed call on Renfrow. But hey, it's 1st and goal from, the half-inch line. The Raiders are gonna plow this in, right? Somehow, some way they couldn't do it. The quarterback sneak didn't work. Alex Leatherwood pushed him back, so it was 2nd and 5. Carr threw an incomplete pass to Renfro. Then on 3rd and goal, Carr was looking for Willie Snead. He put a lot of heat on that ball. It just went through Snead's hands. It ended up hitting off Deshaun Elliott's head. It bounced up in the air, and Anthony Averett corralled it in the end zone. There's a lot to unpack there. Firstly, the Raiders are one of the few teams in the NFL to have a tried-and-true fullback on their roster, Alec Ingold. And he's a good fullback. And I actually think there's a role for fullbacks in the league. Short yardage situations? Yes. Give it to the fullback. Let him plow ahead and pick up that little bit of yardage. I don't know why Gruden didn't go to Ingold in that spot. I understand the logic behind the quarterback sneak, but no one's going to mistake Derek Carr for Tom Brady anytime soon. No one's going to mistake him for Matt Leinart anytime soon. If you have a fullback, use him in that spot. Now, the broadcasters on Monday Night Football, and I was watching the main feed, the feed with Levy, Greasy, and Reddick. I wasn't watching the Mannings call the game. From what I heard, it was good. I'll take people's word for it. I just didn't see it. The main Monday Night Football broadcast crew said that Carr was at fault for putting too much heat on that ball to Willie Snead. No. Was that a fastball? The answer is yes. There's no question. But the ball literally went through Snead's hands. You're a wide receiver. You're wide open. You're in position to get the game-winning touchdown catch, and you just let the ball go through your hands. I understand that the ball came out hot. No question. But that's still a catch that you need to make. And I'll say this about the Monday Night Football crew. Louis Riddick is not right for that role. He's a really smart guy. The thing is, though, he just gets way too technical, throwing out terms that the average football fan just isn't going to know. And if you're going to throw out those terms, explain them. So that way, people can understand them. If you want to put Riddick on at halftime, I'm okay with that. I like Riddick. I think there's a role for him on ESPN. He's not Jason Witten, but I just don't think he's right as a color commentator. I'd rather the booth be just Levy and Greasy. So the Ravens have a chance to drive the ball down the field, and a field goal wins the game. Lamar Jackson fumbled the ball again. You know who forced the fumble? Carl Nassib. The first outwardly gay player to play in an NFL game made the biggest defensive play of the game in stripping the ball from Lamar Jackson. You know what's even better about that? Watching that play happen, the last thought that went through your head was the fact that he's gay. Hey, love is love. It's 2021. Any two consenting adults should be able to get married. But I think it was great for Nassib to make that play because it shows all the young gay people in this country that, hey, it's okay to be gay. You can still play in the NFL and be really good. You can perform at the highest level of your craft. The Raiders got the ball back at the Ravens 27, and I'm screaming at the TV, just send out Daniel Carlson. Don't try it. Don't try anything crazy. Just put Carlson out there and let him attempt a 45-yarder. He already hit a 55-yarder. He can hit a 45-yarder. Kenyon Drake got in a better spot for Carlson. Then something crazy happened. I don't know how this wasn't planned, but there was a delay of game called. The Raiders didn't have any timeouts, so they couldn't stop the clock. How does everyone on that sideline not know that Kenyon Drake is going to put the ball on Carlson's preferred hash, and then the field goal unit is going to run out and attempt the game-winning field goal? That was a terrible job by the Raiders. It knocked them out of field goal range. It was 2nd and 14. Derek Carr completed a huge pass to Zay Jones. That ended the game. Again, off his back foot, outstanding throw. That was really a game for the ages. You had some iconic moments. I don't know what the exact win probabilities were, but I'm sure that towards the end of this game, the chart looked like a roller coaster. The MVP of that game, without question, was Derek Carr. He completed 34 of his 56 passes for 435 yards and 2 touchdowns. He threw an interception that I didn't think was his fault. In a game where Josh Jacobs only had 10 carries for 34 yards. Yes, he had 2 touchdowns, but still, only 34 rushing yards in a game isn't good. For Carr to step up and play like that and beat a really good Ravens team was very impressive. Again, week 1 started with a bang and it ended with a bang. The city of Las Vegas officially welcomed fans into the stands for football, and it couldn't have asked for a better game. Alright, now I'll give you some college football Valk talk. The big story there is that after a big upset loss to Stanfield, a game that I talked about yesterday, Clay Helton is out as USC's coach. So just to be clear, after going 5-1 last year and 8-5 the year before, one upset loss to the Cardinal, and you're gone. Look, this had to be in the works for a while. The USC athletic director had to have been sour on Helton for a while, because there's no way that you make this move this quickly if you're not. The thing is, though, why was he so sour on Helton? I actually think Helton did a good job at USC. Here's a guy who really only had one bad season. 2018. They went 5-7. Okay. You know what we learned? JT Daniels isn't a good quarterback. After that, he rebounded. He went 8-5, made the Holiday Bowl. Granted, he lost it to Iowa in pretty convincing fashion, but still, he made a bowl game. Last year, the Trojans were 5-1. It's not his fault that the Pac-12 only played 6 games. USC was ranked at the end of the season at 21. So now, after annihilating San Jose State, granted, it's San Jose State, but still, you beat them. You suffer a loss to Stanford, and this is it? No, I can't get behind that. I don't care if this was in the works for a while. What, do you want a bigger name? A name that I heard mentioned was James Franklin. Would Franklin want to make that jump from Penn State to USC? Maybe. But let Helton finish out the year. There are a lot of schools out there that could use a guy like Clay Helton. I mean, realize, Helton's young. He's 49. He's had a lot of success. He won the Rose Bowl in 2017. He followed that up by making the Cotton Bowl. I just don't get this. You know who I feel really bad for? Kedon Slovis. Because here's a guy who a lot of people said could win the Heisman, is thought of by some as the best quarterback prospect in this coming NFL draft. Now you're getting rid of a head coach who made Sam Darnold look so good that he became the 3rd overall pick. That's another knock that I've seen on Helton. That he could only win with Sam Darnold. Look, Helton's best years at USC were with Darnold under center. That's correct. I can't argue that. But just to be clear, USC was good under Kedon Slovis. This is Slovis' 3rd year as the starting quarterback for the Trojans. God only knows what they would have done in a full season last year, but I don't think it's crazy to say that they could have gone 9-4 or 10-3. Their floor was 8-5, there's no question. I have no idea how Slovis is going to do now. Granted, he wasn't great against Stanford. USC did not play well against Stanford. There's no question. Their defense gave up 42 points. And Slovis only averaged 5.3 yards per attempt. I've seen him play a lot better. But to fire Helton over that, I think is ridiculous. Now Dante Williams, a guy who no one knows anything about, is USC's new head coach. At least on an interim basis. He started this year as the assistant head coach / passing game coordinator / cornerbacks coach. So, just to be clear, the guy taking over for Clay Helton was the same guy who allowed Tanner McKee to outplay the sexy prospect Kedon Slovis. This is a terrible move by USC. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. You want to tell me the USC fans were upset after the Stanford loss and they wanted blood? If Clay Helton had led USC to a 10-win season last year, which could have happened if there was a full season, they'd be fine. I just don't understand this move. You've got to get a big name to replace Helton now. Whether it's James Franklin, I've even seen Urban Meyer mentioned. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's an interesting thought. How about Matt Leinart? Former USC quarterback, current broadcaster. We like hiring broadcasters to be head coaches. I could see it. But in the interim, it's going to be tough sledding at USC. Alright, now I'll give you some NBA Valk talk. The big story there is that John Wall will never play for the Rockets again. He will be around the team, he'll be at training camp, but he's not going to play in any games. The Rockets are going to try to trade him. The way that the Rockets have conducted themselves in the last 12 months is the epitome of what not to do when running an NBA team. You get rid of two really smart guys in Mike D'Antoni and Daryl Morey. You replace them with Stephen Silas and Raphael Stone, respectively. I don't want to kill Stephen Silas, but the simple fact is, he only had 17 wins last year. I think it's a safe bet to say that he'll never be his father. Then you have the Rockets saying they want to make it work with James Harden. We want to keep him happy. He's going to be here for a long time. Meanwhile, if you read the tea leaves, you could see that this was headed for a nasty divorce. You trade Russell Westbrook, who granted I don't like, but all you get back is an injury-prone player in John Wall and 2 first-rounders. Think about what the Wizards just got for Westbrook. 3 really good players in Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Montrezl Harrell, and a first-rounder. What would you rather have? 3 good players and 1 first? Or an injury-prone player and 2 firsts? I'd rather have the 3 good players and 1 first. So now here it is. It's the start of the season and James Harden is miserable. Eventually, the Rockets cave and they trade Harden. They get back a bunch of picks, but decide that they don't want Jared Allen and they don't want Karis LeVert. The only players that they got in the deal were Rodion Kurucs, who was traded to the Bucks. He only played 11 games for the Rockets. Dante Exum, who never played a game for the Rockets. And Victor Oladipo, who got traded to the Heat at the trade deadline. So all you got were picks. Great, fantastic. Picks are pieces of paper. It's great to have them. You don't give them away. But there's no guarantee that you're going to hit on those picks. Now the crown jewel of the Russell Westbrook trade. The guy who you brought in to keep James Harden happy is only going to spend one season with the Rockets. And to make matters worse, you're not going to get anything for him. You're going to get an expiring contract, but even then, you're going to have to give up picks to get a team to take Wall. John Wall is due to make over $44 million the next 2 seasons. What team is taking him? Seriously, I'm asking you. I have no idea what team has the cap space and the expiring contract to make that trade work. I have no idea. The Rockets are in free fall. Not that long ago, they were in the Western Conference Finals. They were 1 game away from making the NBA Finals. They just forgot how to shoot. Now, how are they going to contend anytime soon? This is a 5-year rebuild, at best. That's if Jalen Green works out. That's if Usman Garuba works out. That's if Josh Christopher works out. I feel sorry for you, Rockets fans. It didn't have to be this way. If you had done this correctly, you'd be set up really well for the future. Now, you're going to be really bad for a really long time. There are a couple deaths in the sports world that I want to talk about. No, that doesn't include Norm Macdonald, sadly. I mean, I loved Norm Macdonald. He's actually my favorite Weekend Update host ever. I thought the OJ stuff was hysterical. Dirty Work is funny. His stand-up stuff on some of the late-night shows I thought was great. I loved him on The Fairly Odd Parents. I loved Sports Show with Norm Macdonald. I actually had tickets to see Norm Macdonald at the Paramount in Huntington in November. I mean, I love Norm Macdonald. I'm in shock right now. The thing is, though, it just wouldn't be right for me to do a recap of his career. This isn't an entertainment talk show. This is a sports talk show. I'm in shock. I'm stunned. I sincerely hope that he rests in peace. Norm Macdonald's death is more important than the 2 deaths that I'm going to go in depth on, but it just wouldn't be right for me to talk about him. I don't consider myself an expert on the history of comedy. I do consider myself an expert on the history of sports. But wow, this is tough. Okay, the first death that I'm really gonna go in depth on is the death of Paris Harrelson, who died yesterday at the age of 37. It's okay if you don't know the name Paris Harrelson. Not a household name by any stretch. But from the mid-2000s to the mid-20-teens, he was actually a pretty good linebacker. After spending his rookie season in 2006 as a backup, Harrelson became a starter in 2007. The Niners moved from a 4-3 defense to a 3-4 defense when Greg Minuski took over for Bill Davis. That opened up a spot for Harrelson. And he was good. Like, really good. In 2008, he had 8 sacks. He led all NFC West players in sacks that year. He was a good pass rusher. He was effective at getting to the quarterback. He made life difficult for opposing quarterbacks. He made them throw the ball before they were ready to, made them roll out and create. He was a good player. Unfortunately for him, for the bulk of his time in San Francisco, the Niners were really bad. Mike Nolan did not do a good job for him. Mike Singletary really couldn't get him over the hump. Then Jim Harbaugh came in and made that team great. In 2011, the Niners won the NFC West. They went 13-3. They had the second best defense in the league in terms of points against. Harrelson was a key part of that defense. He started every game for the Niners that year. I mean, think about that linebacker core. Ahmad Brooks, Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis, and Harrelson. It doesn't get much better than that. The Niners beat the Saints in an epic divisional round matchup, 36-32. Then they lost to the Giants in an epic NFC Championship game, 22-17. After Lawrence Tynes hit that game-winning field goal, I played Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories on my PlayStation 2 all night. That's a true story. In 2012, Harrelson got hurt. After that, he spent 2 years with the Saints and was good for him, but not great. He did have one memorable moment, though. In the first game of the 2014 season, he was the fullback for a Kiri Robinson touchdown run. Like I said, fullbacks are important. Was Harrelson a great player? The answer is no. But was he a good player and an underrated player? From the mid-2000s to the mid-20-teens, the answer is yes. The second death to talk about is the big one in the sports world. Fred Stanfield, dying yesterday at the age of 77. When you think of the great hockey players of the late 60s to the mid-70s, you probably think of guys like Dave Keon, Bobby Orr, Dennis Potvin, Phil Esposito, the French Connection, Guy Lafleur. It would take you a while to get to Stanfield, but it shouldn't. Because this guy was a really, really good player. Offensively gifted, played a clean game. Stanfield never had more than 22 penalty minutes in a season. I don't know how he never won a Lady Byng trophy. Now, early on in his career, it looked like Stanfield was gonna fizzle out. He really couldn't get going with the Blackhawks. He couldn't find a niche for himself. He couldn't carve out a role. Whatever expression you want to use, he was traded to the Bruins along with Phil Esposito and Ken Hodge for Gilles Marat, Pitt Martin, and Jack Norris. That trade is without question one of the worst trades in NHL history. It's right up there with the Yashin trade. It's right up there with the Tuukka Rask trade. Before that trade, the last time the Bruins made the playoffs was in the 58-59 season. They hadn't won a Stanley Cup since World War II. But with Milt Schmidt as their GM and Harry Sinden as their coach, who later became their longtime GM, happy birthday, by the way, he turns 89 today, the Bruins became great. And one of the reasons that they became great was the Esposito, Stanfield, and Hodge trade. Everyone knows it as the Esposito trade. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Fred Stanfield was a better player than Phil Esposito. He wasn't. But Stanfield played a very important role on those Bruins teams, centering the second line between Johnny Busick and Johnny McKenzie. Stanfield was an excellent power play contributor. He played on the point and really helped guys like Espo and Bobby Orr and all those guys. With the Bruins, Stanfield never had a season where he didn't score 20 goals, and he never had less than 54 points. His first year with the Bruins, 67-68, started a playoff streak for the Bruins where they made the playoffs every year until the 96-97 season, the last year of Steve Kasper, arguably the worst coach in Bruins history. Either him or Dave Lewis. It's close. Stanfield would end up winning 2 Stanley Cups for the Bruins. In 1970, the Bruins swept the Blues. That was the epic Bobby Orr goal, the Superman pose. And in 72, the Bruins beat the Rangers in 6 games. In advance of the 73-74 season, the Bruins had an issue. They had a lot of scoring, but no goalies. Eddie Johnston was past his prime. Ross Brooks was old. John Adams wouldn't turn into anything. And Jacques Plante was old. Harry Sinden decided to deal from his surplus to address his weakness, which is the right thing to do. So he traded Stanfield to the Minnesota North Stars for Gilles Gilbert. Gilbert would go on to do really good things for the Bruins, along with Jerry Cheevers. In case you're wondering where Cheevers was, he actually spent some time in the WHA. for the Cleveland Crusaders when the WHA merged with the NHL. That's when Cheevers went back to the Bruins. So that was another fantastic trade by the Bruins involving Stanfield. With the North Stars, Stanfield was moved to right wing. It didn't work. He was good, not great for them. Then he was traded to the Sabres. Had a really good run for him in 74-75. He had 33 points in 32 games. The Sabres made the Stanley Cup Finals that year, partially because of Stanfield, but they lost to the Flyers in 6 games. Stanfield finished his career with the Sabres after the 74-75 season. He was good, not great for him. I've always wondered how Fred Stanfield would have done on Don Cherry's Bruins teams. Imagine a guy like Stanfield playing with a coach that loved his players to be physical. Would have been interesting to see what would have happened with those two. May Paris Harrelson and Fred Stanfield, both rest in peace. Until tomorrow, I am Jacob Valk saying, go read Norm Macdonald's book based on a true story.